And we are live. Hello, carnivores, and welcome to session number 31. We have Stephen Thomas today, finally, the UK carnivore himself. He is the co-host of the annual Carnivoreathon. He is a carnivore and keto coach specializing in obesity and diabetes. He is a personal trainer as well as a qualified phlebotomist. Stephen has been on the supersetyourlife.com podcast, which is the workout motivation show for our athletes that we coach multiple times, helping us break down some fundamental nutrition concepts that contradict what mainstream media often teaches, especially concerning cardio and calorie counting. Before we turn things over to the UK Carnivore, our Spotify podcast review of the week is from Wendy Eddy from Minnesota, US. She would like to say, really enjoyed this podcast. Amazing information. Thanks so much, Colt and Jake. You both rock. She is referring to session number 28. That was a couple weeks ago. Suffering is the ultimate biohack with Jake Thomas. And that's basically the ultimate lion diet episode that we've had on this channel so far. Thank you very much, Wendy, for that. You rock, my little big sister. Stephen Thomas, welcome to Carnivore Coaches Corner, my man.
Hi there, Colt. It always makes me laugh, these very formal introductions, but I always appreciate them. It's great. And it's good, isn't it, that you get the interaction with people that are watching. I really used to find the comments on my YouTube channel, I've got to find an hour, Now it's, I love that hour, and it's great to get that interaction and the feedback. I don't know Jake, who you mentioned there. I don't think I do, but I'm sure it was a good guest. And anyway, I'm good. I've literally moved 2 tons of wood because I ordered 2 1-ton bags. So my maths is pretty good. So that's 2 tons of wood. And I was in the shower 20 minutes ago. So if I'm looking a bit flushed, it's because I've had quite a good physical day today, but I've really enjoyed it. I finished one video edit of a fantastic success story. I saw Sean Baker.
Tell me about it.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, I saw Sean Baker mentioning how it keeps amazing him what happens. And that's exactly the same. So this particular person, Roxana, she had posted something on Facebook for her 4-year carniversary. And it was so touching and moving and brilliant. I don't normally do this, but I just messaged and said, do you want to come on the show? Anyway, it's brilliant. Over 100 pounds lost. Fatty liver reversed, type 2 diabetes reversed, the same old, stomach problems reversed. But it isn't same old. It's always amazing, the story. It's always interesting. And the reason I'm mentioning this is because she had a lot of pushback at first. She tries to tell people, and I have pushback, and I experienced it even last night at a social event where I was talking about... Yes. I was. It was a social thing, and I wasn't the main person. I was just invited along. Someone asked me how things are going, and I started to talk about one of the videos I did with the guy reversing his kidney problems from he was actually on dialysis to being completely off dialysis, sending me all his medical records, and because there was a couple of people attached to the National Health Service, Jane just sort of said, probably best not to talk about things like this. Now, that's really sad. I also agree. I understand, because it was a social event and you don't want people being upset. But fancy being upset because you're hearing about somebody getting off of dialysis through nutrition. And that's what's wrong, you see. We're all pussyfooting around and not wanting to upset anybody. Me included. I didn't think, I'm banging the table. I want to talk about that. And the person that was off stage 3 kidney disease as well. So I think it's quite a sad situation at the moment where when you've got good news, the only way you can get the good news out is on YouTube and let people watch. Whereas in social situations, it can be difficult. Coach so many people where I've said, you've got to rein it in, because when it starts getting really good, you just want to tell everybody. You want to, it wants to be the first thing you say. Hi, I'm carnivore. Guess what? I've reversed this, but you can't do it. So I just feel it's been a very interesting 24 hours. The segue into the 2 ton of wood is, I'm 59. I was up in the gym.
I still can't believe that, dude. Look at you. Like this is an audio only podcast, but there are bits and pieces of this that are going to be on YouTube. And oh my God, dude, like every time you say that, I'm like, you look like you're my age, man. I'm 31.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I'm disappointed. This is not going to be on YouTube. Is it only audio, or is it on both?
This is a audio only podcast. It'll actually, yeah, it'll be on YouTube right after this. The entire raw recording will. But most of our traffic is on the audio only podcast. So.
I put my best shirt on. You see, I want people to see
it. Me too.
but my last 24 hours is up at 5 o'clock in the gym, working out. I'm doing some sprints as well straight after. Work, then social, out, back, late. Up early, back at the gym, moving 2 ton of wood around. What have I eaten today? I just had a pork chop, and I started with sausage and eggs. And that's it. And my drink here, and if dear old Richard, he'll like this little plug. His Keto Pro lemon and orange electrolyte
that's
drink.
Not carnivore. How dare you?
I know. It's the only thing that I've had that's not carnivore. But anyway, that's for you, Rich. Yes. Have you got some electrolytes in there?
Do I actually? No, it's just straight water. Have not had anything sweet enter my body in the last 44 days. Still on the line.
Brilliant.
5 more days to go.
But you see, water's not carnivore, is it?
That's good. I guess that's a very good point. Neither is salt if we're going to play that game.
But we're not pragmatic because it is carnivore. I mean, it's what we're meant to eat. That's a drink. We're meant to drink water, or we're meant to eat meat. It's really that simple. And eggs.
Amen. 100%. I love it, dude. So what were you moving so much wood for? What was the?
Well, we got our heating is a wood burner.
You guys have a wood stove. Okay, we have one too. We use it when, I don't know, when we feel like making our heating bill go down. Do you chop it all yourself too?
No, it's a guy called Mr. Logs. Is a company that just turns up, scruffy git with big bags of wood on the back of his van. It's just great. It's great.
Oh, cool. Yeah, my brother Bo got me into axe throwing and chopping wood with an axe, like as a form of physical exercise. And he goes, "Come on, man, you in your whole carnivore lifestyle, like you would love it. It's really primal. It's like what we used to do back in the day, like before we had heating like we have today." And so he goes, "You just got to get real pissed off at it, treat it like HIIT cardio, and just start whacking away at it." And I was like, "All right." And it's fun, man. It's actually a very, very good cardiovascular workout, and it's something different. It's like you can only do so much running, you can only do so much biking before you get bored with all the endurance, before the the endurance types of exercise. But it's, I don't know. I feel like chopping wood is pretty underrated. Works your entire body and it feels healthy. Yeah. Like it's easy on the joints, it's low impact. So cool. Okay. We have a question from email, if that's all right, if I fire this one at you.
Yeah.
Good stuff. So this is Chris via our podcast email inbox, which is admin@supersetyourlife.com for your questions there. He would like to ask, "Hi, I'm looking for an answer to the following question. Is it possible to develop a state of insulin suppression in a chronic zero-carb carnivore diet? I heard that from Dr. CYWES. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce
Dr. Cywes. Dr. Cywes, okay. I think that, yeah.
And this gentleman that he's citing is actually brilliant, and I have watched a lot of his videos. I just don't know how to pronounce his name. But anyway, so that's basically what he was saying. He goes, "Thanks, Chris." And yeah, the video that he's referencing, I'll put a link to it in the show notes. And so anyway, I'm just curious as to what your thoughts are on that question and how you would answer it.
Yeah, he used to be brilliant. He definitely lost his way, I think.
I've heard that from multiple people. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. And I would have to say, I mean, one of the things that I saw him interviewed and asked about the reticulocyte count, because we're talking about HbA1c. I will get to the insulin question. And he just said, "Oh, that's BS, that red blood cells might live longer." Absolute no research, doesn't actually understand it. As a phlebotomist, we've done that test hundreds of times, and it definitely is needed. It's more needed for people that are hemolytic, anemic because of this. their red blood cells don't live as long as they should. So you have an artificially low HbA1c. And therefore, you're told to ignore the A1C because the red blood cells aren't in your bloodstream long enough to be glycated. So then what happens is you have to look at fasted glucose, fasting insulin, C-peptide, sort of proxy markers. And if you've got the daily average blood glucose readings, you can pretty much prove that the HbA1c is bad as an indicator, because the calculated level, which is what it is, because it's assuming the red blood cells live a long time, or a particular time, normally 120 days, in their calculations. Some use 90, and you get this reading. But if your red blood cells are dying off early, that means you're going to look at your HbA1c and think, wow, that's brilliant. I'm anemic, but I'm really miles away from diabetes. But that isn't true, like I say. So doesn't take a rocket scientist to realize that what if your daily blood glucose is very low on average from your blood glucose readings, but your HbA1c has gone up, even though your fasted insulin is good, your fasted glucose is good, your C-peptide is good. There must be something not right, and it is that calculation. And you can pretty much prove it, and I've had that clients now do the reticulocyte. Reticular just basically is an immature red blood cell, and it's in the bloodstream as a percentage. It's not an actual sort of level you need to look at. And if the percentage is correct, when we're going to get into that in a second, then you can say, well, your red blood cells seem to be surviving at normal rate. If they're very low, you see, what's happening there is your red blood cells are lasting longer. That's pretty much a proof. So you can tick all these boxes off and say, right, the continual glucose monitor, that's not lying, that's telling us. You could use a finger stick and get the glucose out of your actual blood measured, and well, that's not high. So we've got the continual glucose monitor, we've got the finger stick, that's showing us the fasted glucose, fasted insulin, and C-peptide. All of these saying, well, you're not diabetic. So the HbA1c is the outlier, not right, because of the red blood cell life. Anyway, so that was one of the sort of red flags, for want of a better word, when he just said that's BS. It's not BS. It's absolute nailed on. If you're a phlebotomist, that's exactly what you do, right? So once you hear that reaction, you think, well, this person doesn't know what they're talking about, but is absolutely willing to call it BS. I don't get that. Now, if you look at the medical profession, go back to maybe 5 years ago, I would have people come into me saying, I have failed a glucose tolerance test. Now, that is what the medical profession are like. They want you to be able to cope with a drink that has 15 teaspoons of sugar in. I don't want to be able to do that. So that's what a glucose tolerance test does. And they don't do it so much now because we have the continual glucose monitors. We have these other much better biomarkers. But that's how they used to do it, because they think that's the best thing. And this is where this video has big problems, because it goes through certain bloods and there's lots of, well, I would like to see this level, I would like to see that level. No clinical presentation is mentioned in this video. No problems with the person is mentioned. It's just looking at the normative ranges and saying, well, that's a bit, well, I'd like to see that low, I'd like to see that high. No reason why, just because they would fit the ranges. So we're going to get now into the insulin suppression theory. Now, he's using that expression as if it's a bad thing. So first thing, what is the insulin suppression theory? Well, that's actually reducing the secretion and usage of insulin to impact on your overall health and well-being. That's what we're trying to do. We don't want elevated or inappropriate levels of insulin. So actually suppressing insulin is sort of a good thing. I think what he's trying to say is that if you go back to carbs, or if you're having sugars and stuff, and this is where the video is a bit strange, is your body going to be able to produce the insulin it needs? Because it seems to be there's quite low levels of insulin. But that's the point. That's what we want. Also not factoring in that once you are in a low carb state, or once you're carnivore, once you're keto, your insulin sensitivity goes up. So you don't need so much. The usage and utilization of insulin is increased. So we've got that as well. Then you've got the GLUT4 transporter. Most people, when they start this way of eating, become more active. So that's the receptor that allows glucose into the cell without needing insulin. That's a really big key factor. You exercise, the cell it has a receptor that translocates, goes to the membrane because you're active, and it allows glucose into the cell. So there's lots of reasons why you wouldn't need to have so much insulin. And the
Wow.
only problem you would get is if your daily blood glucose is going up, which I've never seen when people have been talking about this problem, or your fasted insulin or your fasted glucose, C-peptide, all that starts to show you that there are problems. So I think it was an oversimplification that he was going on about there. Didn't factor in sort of individuality of the person, didn't look at a holistic approach, which is really important, because if you've got somebody, and I think he actually showed a picture of the guy that he was talking about who was fit, lean, muscular, didn't have any problems. So why think just because the numbers are not what you want them to be, maybe they're actually where they should be, and the normative ranges for this person eating this way, is not appropriate to the normative values. So the individualized needs of that person is a big factor that was completely missed out. So I'll give you a really silly example. Somebody did ask me about this about 3 or 4 years ago. He said, well, what would happen if I had a chocolate brownie? My blood glucose would go through the roof. And I said, no, it wouldn't. It wouldn't go through the roof, actually. You might even be hypoglycemic because you're so good with your usage of insulin, which she just did not believe. She said, no, if I eat a chocolate brownie, I definitely will have problems with my blood glucose. No, not at all. Very insulin sensitive. Good usage of the insulin that she's got, not producing tons. As soon as that toxic level of sugar entered her GI tract, because that's really where it all happens, insulin response was rapid and appropriate because it didn't want that amount of sugar. I mean, this is the thing. Sorry, Colt.
Yeah, no, sorry. There seems to be just like a general fear that a lot of people have that if they abstain from carbs for too long, that your body like forgets what to do with them and forgets how to digest them when you do eat them. My dad and I have a joke. We grew up on margarine because we all thought margarine was healthier for us than actual butter, right? so I remember telling my dad one time when I was like learning the difference between butter and margarine, and I was like, Dad, margarine, it's foreign to your body. Your body doesn't even know what it is or what to do with it. He's like, I've been eating this my entire life. My body knows what it is. It knows what to do with it. And so anyway, that's just a joke. But I think it's crazy how people think that having insulin low chronically for a long period of time could be a bad thing. I just don't see how that could ever be a bad thing. I feel great with my insulin being nice and low, but I mean, I get a big spike whenever I have my 1 or 2 meals a day because my meals are so large. So yeah, they're small throughout the day, but I still get a big insulin spike whenever I eat. I mean, I'm packing away 200 to 250 grams of protein a day at least, right? Is that, in your opinion, sufficient enough insulin response and work for your pancreas to do, so that your body just like doesn't forget how to produce insulin? There's a lot of people that like are actually concerned about this.
Yeah, well, it's because of sort of scaremongering that doesn't have any reality to it. There's no biological reality to worrying about this, because you can eat carbs whenever you like and you'll be able to digest them. The amylase doesn't dry up in your saliva, and your ability for your stomach acid to break down the carbohydrates and to process it in your small intestine is not going to stop. I mean, these are physiological facts. My honours degree is in physiology and health sciences. When somebody goes onto an operating table, the doctor or surgeon doesn't open that person up and go, well, how does this one work? Pretty much everyone works the same way. You've got the same organs, and if you're eating carbohydrates, what they might be mixing up is when you go back to something you used to eat and you used to feel good at eating it or drinking it. Let's say a can of Coke, for instance. If I had a can of Coke, I would feel terrible. But that's because it's an inappropriate food for me to consume. I don't want to be able to tolerate it. I don't want 9 teaspoons, because that's the whole point. You want to be going back to using your senses. If you wouldn't feed your pet something you knew your pet does not do well with. If your pet would not thrive on some particular food, you wouldn't give that to your pet. So you've got to treat yourself as good as you treat your animals. And if you are thinking, well, I still want to be able to eat tons of bread or have, you know, a massive sandwich at the weekend, and I want to have my grains and I want to have loads of fruit and I want to have loads of Oreos or something, well, you know, you're not going to feel great, because 6 days out of the week, you've got more insulin sensitive, you've got more adapted to eating the right way. Those amino acids, the fatty acids, they're getting into your system. And then all of a sudden you're dumping a load of sugar in. Well, your body is going to tell you, you're an idiot. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Because it's not good for you.
Right. And I don't think you ever get to that point until it's been a while since you've had it, because then once you realize how good you feel without sugar and how good you feel without processed carbs, it takes months a lot of times to make this transition. You kind of forget what that stuff tasted like in the first place. And then when you do have a candy bar, it's just like, it's kind of foreign. It's weird. It's like, what the heck? Like, it tastes good, but it feels like a drug high. Like, I don't feel like I'm being nourished. It feels different. And then 15 minutes later, you got a sugar crash. And I think it just opens up your eyes that, okay, there is a price that you pay for every single carbohydrate that enters your body. And so the question that you have to ask yourself every day is it worth it or not? You know, for my wife to have 2 pieces of sourdough bread a week, like on her leg days, she loves it. She looks forward to it. And she's pretty much all meat based and keto, like outside of that, but she really looks forward to it. And so I'm like, okay, great for you. For me, I don't tolerate them as well. I feel like crap when I do it. And so she has her quality of life and I have my quality of life, and they're pretty similar, but you know, we do have our individualities.
Yeah. But that's what I said. I mean, that's one of the points, the individual needs and also the holistic approach. If you take it to a silly extreme, if you have someone that's, you know, a chain smoker and then they don't smoke for 15 years and then they go back to smoking because of a stressful situation, for instance, they start coughing.
Yeah.
Well, you don't say to them, you lost your tolerance to cigarettes. You actually do say, see, that's bad for you. It's telling you it's bad for you. That's right. What you say to people. I mean, I've actually witnessed that. I've witnessed that twice in my life, where someone's gone back to smoking because of something bad's happened, and they're just, I'm like, this is a terrible thing for your body. Your body is telling you. Nobody said, well, it's because for 15 years he's now unable to process things. He used to be able to. So that's the thing. I think it depends what your end goal is. If you want to go back to eating carbohydrates, lasagna, tons of rice and things like that, I think you're going to feel worse. I don't think that's anything to do with the way we've been eating. I think it's your body just being smart. Exactly the same way as
I think that would be a step backwards in anybody's health journey, what you just described.
Yeah. You pick up something that smells sour. Well, that's a bit off. Oh, I'm going to eat it anyway. You won't do it. Your body is full of these things to say, don't eat that, don't do that. And the sad thing is, it's masked by, these hyperpalatable sort of processed foods. It's masked by other stuff. So your body is tricked into consuming stuff that it doesn't really want. But anyway, I think that sort of answered that. Hope so. Anyway.
Yeah, very much so, and then some. Very, very thoroughly. Thank you for that, and thank you for thanks for taking the time to watch the video that I sent you to, and to
I'd already seen it, Colt. I'd already seen it because somebody else had sent it to me, and I did a thing with Mark K about it.
Good stuff. The second question that we got from our email inbox was from Roman from Spokane, Washington, United States, via our podcast email box. Some of the nutritionists that you have on your show, Colt, claim that abstaining from carbohydrates long-term can cure cancer. What are your thoughts on this, Stephen? Is there any research that you're aware of that proves this? Certainly never anything that I've claimed personally, but I wouldn't be surprised.
So you've had guests on that said that not eating plants can stop you getting cancer. Simple as that.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly where those. I don't exactly remember where those claims came from, but there's. But there seems to be a belief, and I could agree with this, within the carnivore community that abstaining from carbohydrates long-term impacts your health positively. And I believe that it can help with cancer. Why? I have no idea. That's just a common characteristic that I've observed from lots of nutritionists like yourself that I respect. And And it makes sense to me. But I guess I'm just not curious as to the direct correlation that carbohydrates have with cancer, because it's like impossible to
Okay, right.
it's impossible to make a study to like actually prove this.
Yes. Well, let's look at why that is being said. So if you go to real basics, when they scan you for cancer, they don't scan you for cancer. They scan you for carbohydrate metabolism in high levels. All right. So when you have a drink, it's just a carbohydrate based drink, and then you put it in the scanner, and let's say your brain starts to light up with carbohydrate glucose metabolism. It's more than likely you've got some sort of cancerous thing there. So that is telling you that there's something to do with glucose metabolism and rapid growth of cancer. And that's true. Cancer cells love glucose. So people make that strange leap of, well, if you cut the glucose out, you're going to kill cancer. Well, they also can live on glutamine. And so you have to block that as well. And then you look at other things, and cancer is quite adaptive. I would say what they should be saying is you're possibly improving your chances of reversing, stopping the progression of, maybe curing yourself. You're just improving your chances if you don't eat a lot of carbohydrate, because you are starving the cell of its main source of energy if you're not ramping up your blood glucose. So there's an easily accessible amount of glucose for it to proliferate. Also, you've got anecdotes. So yes, I definitely got people that have reversed cancer. One on a raw meat diet, and was it the raw meat and not cooked meat that made all the difference? To me, it doesn't matter. They survived cancer. If people think I'm being glib, I lost my mother to colon cancer when I was 23, and my dad to spinal cancer when I was 10. And I also lost a girlfriend in my 20s to breast cancer, who was actually a nurse who was looking after my mother in the intensive care unit. So I'm not being glib. It's a serious thing. I know it's serious, but I also think that we are looking at it wrong. A lot of people think it's a genetic disease, whereas Dr. Thomas Seyfried is looking at it as a metabolic issue. And he's talking about the fermentation process within the cell. And then he's basically looking at those things, glucose and glutamine, and also fasting, looking at things like the glucose ketone index, which is pretty much, there's pretty good studies on the fact that if you can keep your ketones up and your glucose down, and you get this reading, this ratio, and it's called the GKI, then you do see the reduced size of some cancer tumors. So I think I'm being cagey because it's very emotive, and people don't like false claims. None of that was false. That's all out there. You could look up Dr. Thomas Seyfried. I would say if I had cancer, so just talking about my personal experience and so what I've seen, everything that happened to my father, my mother, and my girlfriend, I would not do. I do believe that also when you talk to oncologists, most of them wouldn't do chemotherapy. I think there was two big not referendums, I can't remember what they called it, but basically a sort of blind poll of whether these people that are in this industry giving this treatment, whether they would have it themselves. And something like 84% wouldn't, because I think nutrition is less damaging to your cells. So I would look at extended fasting. I would probably go very much more low carbohydrate, and I would look at what other treatments were out there personally.
Yeah, it's kind of the best first thing that anybody could do. I mean, I'm not a doctor, and so I'm not going to recommend this, but I've even heard Lane Norton, of all people, say that if he realized that he had cancer, the first thing he would do is do an extended fast and figure out what to do after that. Basically, everything that you said sounds so logical. That makes so much more sense. I really appreciate that. I lost my grandmother to leukemia when I was in high school. So it was probably about 13, 14 years ago. And she was known, like she was like famous for how healthy her diet was, but it was very plant-based, like lots of yogurt, lots of berries, what society would say is healthy. very low in processed foods, but still very high in carbohydrates. And I just wonder if, going back in time, had I known what I know now, she went through chemo, went through everything, and I mean, she just went fast in her younger 60s, like way too young. And so what you're saying is making a lot of sense and connecting a lot of dots. I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, well, my mother was bran flakes, fruit, skim milk, grains, doing all that. No red meat, no fatty red meat, the stuff that gives you colon cancer. And she died of colon cancer. She had a 9-pound cancer growth throughout her colon. So categorically, I can say that, avoiding red meat, avoiding saturated fat did her zero favors. She died pretty young.
That's tragic. That's actually a perfect segue into where we were going to go next with this, which is kind of getting into conspiracy theories. So we won't get too far into it. But all right, so I have a client that is happily seeing the results that he wants to see with keto, and isn't really sold as to why he should eliminate plants. Per my client, this is what he said: is for every one nutritionist that discourages plant consumption, there are thousands of research organizations like Harvard, Yale that strongly disagree. So how do we explain this? Vegetables that he's currently consuming is onions, mushrooms, spinach, cauliflower, and broccoli. Says that he likes all of them. Says he does just fine with them. So I haven't asked him to remove any of them from his meal plan because he's happily getting the results that he wanted in the first place. I'm kind of curious as to what your thoughts are there. Like, does everybody is everybody that's telling us to eat plants saying it because they want the government to control us and because they want us to be unhealthy, and so we're on medications the rest of our life? I don't know. There's some people that think that. I think that's a bit of a stretch, but I do believe that that's a big part of why plant-based agendas are pushed so hard at the same time. So I know that's a pretty big question, a pretty packed question, but I'm just curious.
No, it's not. It's not a big question. It's one that you can test. So you go on Google and you ask for the top 10 foods that give you iron, for instance. Use that as an example. And all 10 will be plant-based, right? Because Google is bought and paid for by the big corporations that do all of the plant processing. Right. So what? Your viewer might think, okay, well, I'll tell you what, in animal-based foods, you get heme iron. This is all stuff you can look up. And I actually did a search on ChatGPT, which is also driven by things like Google. All right. So this is not controversial. All right. So this is what they said. Heme iron found in animal products such as meat, poultry, and fish is bound to a molecule called heme. This form of iron is typically more readily absorbed by the body, with an absorption rate ranging from 15 to 35%. So straight away, it's telling you that the iron found in the meat, in the animal products, which didn't appear in the top 10, is much more bioavailable than plants, which it says, as a result, if you get iron from plants, the absorption rate of non-heme iron is typically lower, ranging from 2% to an optimistic 20%. So the top plant is equivalent to the worst animal product. And yet when you ask for the top 10 food sources of iron, you do not get one animal product in there.
That's messed up, dude.
Well, let's take that question a bit further. So 1,000 nutritionists who haven't heard that or even looked into this, they search for what is the best source of iron, and they see all their plants. Why would they question it? They've gone onto Google. So partly the impression that thousands of nutritionists compared to hundreds of carnivore coaches are saying about plants, they might just be incompetent because they're not doing their research. Or they might be easily misled because they think that Google is not bought and paid for. The WHO isn't bought and paid for, which is. Bill Gates is the largest farmer in America, or owns the largest amount of farmland in the States. He is not doing cattle any favors. He's making all of his plant-based stuff and fake meat. And he's the top donator to the WHO. the World Health Organization. So you're not going to upset your biggest donator by saying actually plants are not that great. So what I was trying to do was give you different angles to look at this.
Wow.
So there you go. So Google is in cahoots with everybody else, and that's a fact. They don't want you to know that animal products are better at giving you iron, for instance. Using that as one example, right? Another one you could look at is, what are we made of? Well, we're made of proteins and fats, and bone, and obviously glycoproteins. But if you take it really basically, the amino acids in us are really good at making an animal, a human. Well, the amino acids in plants are really good at making plants. So you could look at it like, well, there's a bit of logic for you, some simple logic.
Yeah, no kidding.
So if you had a normal steak on your plate and you wanted to get iron from it, you'd have to have 1.1 kilograms of spinach to get the same amount of iron. Well, people aren't going to eat 1.1 kilogram of spinach just to get the same amount of iron. Right, that's the first thing. Secondly, fiber. I've just done a great thing from my website about fiber, going through the studies.
And your video that you just did with Bart K on that was spectacular, by the way. Thanks for that. I learned a ton. It makes a lot of sense as to why a lot of people in mainstream media haven't really caught on to the health benefits of not having fiber in your diet, because like, how are you going to run tests with that again? It's just, it's hard. But once you've done it, once you experience it, you're like, oh, it's a night and day difference. But nobody has the guts to do it in the first place. Just go without fiber for a while. You'll start pooping just fine after a couple of days. I promise.
Yeah.
Sorry. Go ahead.
I was trying to get the studies up, but basically I've got study after study now, because people think there aren't studies. Well, they don't tend to put a cohort in with no fiber whatsoever, but you're seeing reversal of rheumatoid arthritis. You're definitely seeing GI tract issues going, toilet issues going. Basically, fiber. I can't find this. I haven't got the study because we're doing this live, but I can post it to you. You can put it in the description.
That'd be great.
I could go to my website actually, because I put the studies on there. You just bear with me 1 second, and it's a bit unprofessional, isn't it? But let's do it because it is live. Fiber. There we go. And we'll come back to. Oh, I spelt it the American way.
I want to add to what you just said too. Is that most of my clients are a lot healthier than their doctors, actually. Like, their blood work is better than their doctors, and so it's like when the doctors are telling him to eat plants and my client is looking at him back, I'm like, okay, like, you see my physique, right? You see my blood work, right? You see how low my triglycerides are, right? Yeah, I think I'm doing just fine without plants. And so that's kind of been our argument since. It's like, all right, Wendy, 5 months late, 5 months ago, she had higher triglycerides and she had and she had lower thyroid. Now her thyroid's doing better, her testosterone's higher. And like, this is the kind of stuff to where we just throw it back when they tell them to put plants and fiber back in their diet. I'm like, look, she's doing so much better without it. Why does she need to do what you're telling her to do? So,
can I do a screen share very quickly?
Please do.
Yeah, let's do that. Then, because it's all for your viewer there asking about plants.
Absolutely.
So
he'll love this.
You just got to add it to the stage. So I've just I put these on my website, ukcarnivore.com. And is it on?
I'm sorry, I'm trying to figure out how to add it to the stage. Oh, add to stage. Bam, there we go. Okay, got it.
There you go. Right. So there you go. The impact of fiber on autoimmune diseases. Recent studies reveal surprising findings. So this is in Cell Host and Microbe, and a fiber deficient diet inhibits colitis through the regulation of niche and metabolism of a gut pathobiont, which is just basically a buzzword at the moment. But what they did is they looked at nutrition with fiber-free diets, and they found that it was effective steroid-sparing treatment to induce clinical remission in children with Crohn's disease. So Crohn's disease, which we know on the carnivore does. I mean, I've got maybe 10, 15 success stories where Crohn's has gone completely in remission by taking out the fiber
I got a couple of those myself. That people that have Crohn's disease, man, when they get on the carnivore diet, miracles happen.
Well, this is why they now know. Basically, we've now got another study.
So it's the fiber that was the root of the issue. That's mind blowing.
Yeah, high fiber diet synergizes with Prevotella copri and exacerbates rheumatoid arthritis. So basically, you have a interaction between the fiber, and you get microbial alterations, basically, and intestinal inflammation. So you then get rheumatoid arthritis flare-ups. Now, is it conspiracy theory? Well, this chart is very interesting because this is the people that are backing plant-based foods, processed foods, and their return of capital. In the pink one there is in 2020, and this is now 2022, and they are just getting more and more profitable. Tremendous amount of short-term benefits, you see, because what's happening, if you look at what's on the supermarket shelves, it's all processed stuff. It's going to last for a long time. There's not much refrigeration needed, and it doesn't spoil. They're just going to make tons of money out of it. I mean, you look at things like oat milk. It's water with some oats in and some colouring. You're being charged huge amounts of money to have just a sort of sugary drink. But anyway, on my website, there's tons of this. And also, one of the things people say, well, you need fiber and you need plants to be able to give you short-chain fatty acids, because that's really essential for the health of the internal lining of your colon. But that's not true. Well, it is true, but you can also get it from ketones, and you can get it from isobutyrate, and that's from the blood. And that actually goes into the epithelial cell later on in the stage. So actually, dietary fiber adds two of these processes before it gets down into the beta hydroxybutyrate, CaO, and then you get down basically to the mitochondria, giving you some energy. Well, beta hydroxybutyrate from ketones goes in much sooner. Acetoacetate also goes in a bit later. So you can get everything that you need. You can take that off the screen now if you want. From your animals. You don't need plants. You just don't need plants. And then you've got the anti-nutrients that come from plants. You've got so many different things that are problematic, absolutely problematic. So
yeah,
there you go.
100%. That was an absolutely beautiful response. Thank you so much for that.
Okay.
That makes so much sense. I wanted to go into being sick, if that's okay, on the carnivore sick diet.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yes. Okay.
Okay. Currently, I'm sick. Currently, my client Sarah is also sick. Our diets are very, very similar. Hers is not quite as strict carnivore as mine, but she's pretty darn strict. I mean, she's, I would say, lion, and outside of lion, it's bacon, eggs, a little fish here and there, and like some keto friendly foods like nuts, and that's pretty much it. But she's pretty meat based. Both of us are actually wondering what your opinion is on using plants for medicinal purposes in situations like this. So all things being equal, just your opinion, would you think, like, if you were me, would you supplement something like elderberry, for example, which I've used in the past and I've typically been a fan of, or would you say that my body is better off just fighting the virus without any supplements whatsoever and just letting my body take care of the problem? It's just
this is you personally. This is you personally, is it, Colt?
Yep. This is me personally, and this is Sarah too. Both of us, we've just been sick for the last week, and it's just annoying. Nothing serious.
Well, yeah, you need to sort of tell me what you mean by sick. So what is your symptoms?
Oh, my symptoms are just coughing up lots of loogies. Sorry to be graphic, but this happens every year. When I get sick, it's usually like a 2-week long process. This was way before the carnivore diet, and it's pretty much the same after it too. It's been like this my entire life. But whenever I do get sick, it usually hits me pretty hard. I'm just coughing. It's respiratory, I guess, is what I'm getting at. Nothing that's messing up my digestive system. Digestive system is just fine. It's more my energy and respiratory system that's the issue.
Do you have mold in the house?
No.
No. Okay. And have you smoked in the past?
Nope. I mean, a little bit here and there, but never cigarettes. Never something regularly.
Okay. All right. So you want to blow your nose now? It's made you think about it. And do you feel fluey? Do you feel like you've got a cold?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yes. This has been about a week.
Are you sleeping okay?
No, not at all.
Just not at all. Because of how bad you feel, or?
Yeah. Just waking up like kind of around the middle of the night after I've got a couple hours of sleep, and then I'll find myself coughing, and then it's just hard to get back to sleep after that.
Right. Okay. But you get this every year, do you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right.
Usually like once before Christmas, and then like once after the holidays.
And then during the summer, you're fine, absolutely fine.
Yeah, for the most part.
I mean, have you had imaging done? Have you had your lungs looked at? Have you had people listen to you? Use a stethoscope, put it on your back while you breathe to hear what's going on.
Yeah. I've definitely had pneumonia. It's definitely has developed into pneumonia multiple times.
Right. Okay. We'll come back to you.
Does not feel like it's pneumonia now. This is child's play compared to how bad it usually gets.
Okay. Just to go back to your question, make it a bit broader, because you asked about plants, and then we get to you as an individual. Okay. Yeah, people maybe some herbs are okay. I don't tend to do that. I was very sickly until I used to get things like you just said every single year until I went low carb. I haven't been to the doctors for maybe 10 years now. I've not had any prescription medications, nothing. So I'm not a good person to ask in that respect, because it fixed everything for me, but obviously not for you at the moment. But I think it will. I think if you keep eating this way and keep being active, I would say I'm not adverse to, say, for instance, ginger. If you have a stomach upset, I think ginger is pretty good, but I would get just, ginger root, put it in a garlic press and put it in some water. So there could be something that you're consuming that you're intolerant to. So you could look at your water. I mean, I have reverse osmosis, but I pretty much done mineral water. I used to have Evian until we got the reverse osmosis. So I think drinking water, tap water should be taken out. So I would look at things like that in the environment before I would even think about adding something. I would look at what's the problems. Could it be something you're allergic to in your bedding?
I just got back from flying all over the United States, as you know, too. And so, like, who knows what I got on one of my flights, what I may have picked up. So,
have you had the jab?
Jab?
Flu jab or COVID jab? Have you had any of that?
Oh, the shot. No. No, sir.
No. So I think, I'm not adverse to people using herbs for medicinal purposes. I think that there is some credence to that, but I think that's about the best usage of plants for medicinal purposes. But I think for your respiration,
I guess I broke down and technically broke my lion diet. If this kicks me off the team, then I guess that's what it is. I screwed up 5 days short of when I said I was going to finish. But I just started throwing in elderberry. So these are capsules. The ingredients are black elderberry, vitamin C, a little bit of zinc, and 10 milligrams of black pepper extract. Not sure what that's doing in there. So primarily black elderberry. Sorry.
Why did you pick elderberry?
It's something that I've always used in the past, and something that I always feel like has helped. Here again, no way to prove it, but it's just one of those things where everybody has always taken me to that loves me has told me to take it when I get sick, and I think that helped.
But you get it every year, so it's not sort of working, is that?
Well, I use it. I use it to address the symptoms. I don't use it to prevent.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I would look at things like steaming, just water that's boiled up. Put your head over a bowl, put your towel, breathe in and out.
Yeah, I always feel
Breathing
way
is
better
slow.
after a sauna session or a hot shower. That's
Yeah.
for sure.
No, I would do that. I would do that a few times a day. I would
Okay.
definitely just keep as relaxed as possible. Make sure that you can sleep. Make sure the temperature of the room is pretty good where you're sleeping. Check that there's any allergens. If you're getting it every year, it feels like you're susceptible in some way to something that happens. Could be lack of vitamin D, lack of sunlight. So
that's probably it.
You know,
My vitamin D levels are usually pretty low every time I talk to my doctor and we go over our blood work. That's like the first
well, I
thing.
would look at that. I mean, I would get out in the
addresses.
sun more, and I would ground more, and get,
Yeah.
you know, even if it's not particularly sunny, I would try and get as much of your skin absorbed, exposed to the sunlight.
Okay.
But yeah, it's a tough one.
Okay. I figure I probably can't hurt anything by putting the elderberry in, so I'm just putting it in, hoping that it helps. And other than that, getting lots of sunlight and trying to get grounded. I'm sorry, man. I'm just kind of a baby about it right now because it's really cold outside, and so I'm making sure I get grounded 3 times a day. But like being in the ground for extended periods of time, man, that's you got to be a hardcore biohacker to do that around here right now. it was below zero a couple weeks ago. Cool. I love the video here again that you did with Bart K recently, and you guys both talked about Cyril quite a bit. I had no idea that this is something that you use, Stem Cell Ultra. So I've started taking Stem Cell Ultra a few weeks ago, and I'm actually just coming up on 30 days, having gone through the entire bottle. I'm feeling better. I just can't tell whether the reduced inflammation is coming from the lion diet or from this, because I'm doing both at the same time. But I'm just kind of curious what your experience has been with Stem Cell Ultra.
Well, one comment on my YouTube video was they said it felt like a hard sell, and it wasn't. It was enthusiasm. What I was saying earlier about don't be too enthusiastic about stuff, about, you know, how great carnivore is. I tend to mediate my excitement because I don't want to come across as like just pushing supplements. But I did have a personal experience where I started taking it.
Which, by the way, if I could just add one thing to that, which is why I wanted to bring it up, because you and Bart K, like you guys never sell supplements. You guys never. I mean, you guys are so holistic, and everybody that comes to you, you help them fix their problems with their diet and with their diet alone. There's never a quick fix. And so that's why I was like, okay, if Bart recommends this and if Steven recommends this, there's probably something behind it. Sorry, I just wanted to agree with what you were saying.
Well, it's very nice of you. And I think the fact that you didn't even know I take it is testament to the fact I don't go on about it all the time. But
yeah, so anybody that says that you're selling stuff, they have no idea what they're talking. They don't know you.
But I think, you know, because it was a personal experience of mine, we had a financial crisis when the house we moved into, the roof basically gave in and we got flooded and everything. So one of the things I had to stop was the Stem Enhance, but it was one of those sort of serendipitous happy accidents because it proved its worth to me. I was the same as you. I took it, and I was also doing carnivore, and I was thinking, well, what's making all the difference? Is it Stem Enhance? Is it the carnivore? But I'd been doing carnivore for a couple of years before I started taking it. So I knew carnivore worked.
Yeah.
I knew that. I knew keto did, knew low carb. But anyway, so I started taking Stem Enhance, and I do feel I had a few improvements. Jane, my wife, took it as well. Saw better hair, better nails, better skin, which again, strangely enough, you know, has happened this time around because we had a break from the supplement because it was we couldn't afford it. Simple as that, really, because we had to pay for a new roof, which we weren't expecting, and then that new roof leaks and everything. So the science is there. What I like about it is it's very good science. For those that don't know, your bone marrow produces adult stem cells. And this, in the clinical trials, improves the amount of adult stem cells or increases that are in your bloodstream. So there's a glycoprotein that is attached in the bone marrow. So the glycoprotein is basically like a molecule of cell adhesion. And the AFA, the active ingredient in the Stem Enhance, is literally like a pair of scissors that comes across and it cuts this L-selectin thing. So it's very interesting. It's very interesting. Though the easiest way to explain is if you imagine a tree with all the branches and balloons on there, and those balloons are the adult stem cells.
Mm-hmm.
And you want them to be released into the atmosphere, and they do get released into the air on a regular basis, and you want more, you get some scissors and you cut the things that are tying it to the branch. That's it. That's how it works. It just improves the amount of adult stem cells that are released. And I think, what makes that cell adhesion, what makes that so sticky compared to where it should be. And I think, again, going back to carbohydrates, going into the excess amount of glucose, I don't think I would have needed Stem Enhance if I'd never had carbohydrates in my life. If I'd never eaten fruit, if I'd never eaten honey, if I'd never eaten lots and lots of berries, if I hadn't had freshly squeezed orange juice, if I hadn't had porridge, maybe that glycoprotein wouldn't be as sticky, and therefore I wouldn't need this. But anyway, I did do that, and so I took it, and I got better. Then I had to stop because of the money, and then once we got the roof fixed, we're back on our feet. I took it up again, and the benefits that I felt came back. So those additional benefits, I should say, really, because I feel pretty good on carnivore, but I just think those extra bits, slightly better skin, slightly better resilience, maybe, to illnesses. I think just everything.
Yeah, it kind of just like seems like the fountain of youth, really, and we can't.
Well, it could be for
like,
me, yeah. And I think Bart looks young for his age, doesn't he? As well, I know he's always joking it doesn't make your hair grow back, but your body doesn't see hair as a priority, does it? It's just not a priority. This is why when people are low on protein, especially women, they start losing their hair because the body's like, well, we don't need to make hair. It's not that important.
Yeah. My wife Taylor has been experiencing quite a bit of hair loss. Unfortunately, it's genetic, and it's something that is. I mean, her dad's bald. Most people in her family don't have like a lot of real thick hair to begin with either. And so she's actually wanting to start taking stem cell ultra for the same reason for her hair loss. And so I'm curious if you think that might help. But I think that we'll just try it and see if it does.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a link if people, or do you have a link for people to use to get it?
Yeah, I have a link too. Yeah, we'll put both of them in the show notes. There you go.
Okay.
Good stuff. We are coming up on the end of an hour, sir. Thank you so very much for all of your time once again. What's the hottest project that you're working on lately? The newest thing that's happening on the UK carnivore media?
Well, the thing with Richard Smith, the Keto Pro, we're expanding our Mighty Networks, which we're really happy about. He used to run a thing called Fat Club,
nice.
which he's put online, but I've joined in with him because I had quite a lot of content to help him along to make that a really good course. So we're looking at that. That's £25 English pounds a month, and that's like 60 days laid out, lots and lots of videos, lots of science, and a weekly live question and answer session, which we do on a Monday. So I think it's a good package. I've been doing a lot of success videos, success stories, which sort of is testament to how good this way of eating, because there's plenty of people that have got these great stories. It's too busy at the moment. It's really good.
I'm not surprised whatsoever. Every single time I talk to you and every single time I talk to Richard, it's like you just got out of 5 recordings and you're about to do 5 more recordings. I swear. I think one of the biggest testimonies I had to the carnivore diet over the summer was actually speaking at Carnivoreathon, but watching you guys, and I'm like, wow, you fasted for what, 24 hours straight, I think, and just did nothing but did nothing but organize the event the entire time. Like, that was pretty cool. That's something that you don't see if it fits your macro crowd, because 3 hours later, everybody be like, all right, it's snack time.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
I love it. How's Richard doing after the move? He just moved, right?
I haven't spoken to him. I will find out tomorrow night when we do our live question and answer session tomorrow night.
Good stuff. I'll try to tune in for that. I love listening to you guys talk, seriously. What as far as our listeners being able to follow you and everything that you're up to, where are your best channels right now?
Well, I think YouTube is the busiest place to go, and you can look up Coach Stephen, or you can look up the UK Carnivore on YouTube, but the link will be in the description. Obviously, I mentioned the website, the ukcarnivore.com. Everywhere, basically.
Just Google
Instagram.
Google the UK Carnivore, but like I don't know if you're listening about a half hour ago, they might not be a fan of his work. No, just kidding. Cool. All right. Well, like I said, it has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you again so very much, Stephen, for all your help. Every single time I come away just having learned a lot, and I'm just ready to put it into action now. And so follow you up, I'll follow up with you soon and let you know how everything's been. And in the meantime, happy Thanksgiving, even though it's more of an American thing.
It is.
Hope you have a wonderful holiday season.
Okay. Yeah, and thanks for giving me the time to have a chat with you, Colt. It's always good.
Oh, always my pleasure. Thanks again, Stephen.
Okay.